And we're getting ready to start the next episode of the world famous Tom Matt Show.
World famous.
I really like that.
I
Craig's
do.
here. Craig, I want to, before we start the recording session, I want to ask you, how many times have you been on the show? I know exactly. I'm going to tell you here. I'm going to talk about it while you're on.
Ah, 22.
25. Good try, though.
Ooh, wow. All right, there we go.
You hit the magic 25, brother. So let's do this thing. We're going to talk performance review, everybody, today. The reason I came up with that was because we are customers of Craig's or clients or whatever the hell you call it. He is, I think, is it mandated? Are you under Karen's law to have to talk to us once a year, or is that like a federal thing? I don't know.
As fiduciaries on an account, especially within fee based on what we charge for clients, being fiduciaries, we have to bring clients in within a 12-month period on what we're actively managing for portfolios. And
Okay.
so if a client just has a brokerage account, it's sitting there, it's all client driven. But if it's something where we're taking discretion over, it's required for us to be informative of our clients of what we're doing, making sure that things are in alignment with their goals and objectives.
All right. So now that we just burned up such great topic that we're going to repeat here on the video here in a second, because we're going to talk exactly about that on the radio recording here in just a second, everybody. So there you go. Fiduciary, why you need to do this and why I don't worry about Jack, because I mean,
Who's Jack? I don't even know Jack. Do you know
I,
Jack?
you know
I
what?
don't worry about Jack.
I do not know Jack. So it's like, that's the whole point why we're friends. Here we go. Let's do let's do this thing.
Let's get to know Jack.
Yeah, let's get to know Jack. That's pretty good. I'm going to write that one down. Here we go. Last week, Justin Grinnell was back, like his sixth or seventh visit. It was really solid. And for the fitness people, especially locally in mid-Michigan, please check that out and go see what kind of specials and things that Justin's doing over there at the State of Fitness. And you can find all that stuff on the Tom Matt Show website, because that's where we put all of our goodies. So welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us this week. Craig's back. Financial Fitness, of course. 25th visit. I asked Craig just now, how many times you been on the show? And he's like, he had to think. 22 came pretty close. 25th visit for Mr. Stiles, our guy. Craig Stiles received his Bachelor of Science in Industrial Engineering. Do I really need to do this bio? I'll do a little bit of it. From Arizona State University. I'm proud of people when they have the education and they have the degrees. That's why it should encourage people to not begrudge higher ed, because some of these degrees can really help launch your life. And so that's what happened with Craig. He went on to receive his master's in business administration, MBA, concentration in finance. Thank goodness. Ameriprise probably likes that. From Western Michigan University, good school. That's where Sandy got hers bachelor's as well. Intermingled with college education, Craig was in the military, joined the Army Reserve, serving in the first NATO operation in Bosnia. Thank you for your service, Craigie. In 1996, and so forth and so on. Craig resides in Williamston with his wife, Stephanie, and 11 children, and they're scattered all over the place. I mean, they're all different sizes, shapes, qualities. I tell you one thing, though, these kids are the most well-behaved kids you ever seen in your life. Like, it's just shocking. But
Truly
hey,
blessed. Yes.
there we go. Let's welcome him back. The Studley McStudley man, a guy who usually has a tie on. I'm surprised he doesn't have one today.
Yeah, I'm tired. Supposed to be. I'm actually supposed to be off today. Today's Martin Luther King Day, and so our offices are actually traditionally closed. So I'm actually working from Williamston today. So
Gotcha. Well, I see that pretty sign behind you. I'm sorry to our radio show people, but Decidery Analytics. We're going to talk a little bit about Decidery. What I want to do today, everybody, is talk about performance review. And the reason I have that is because Craig is obligated, he'll explain all this to you, to do Sandy and ours performance review for last year. And what we're going to do this year. And so that's what we're going to talk about. Plus, the creation of Decidery. It's been a while since we talked about what is Decidery and anything else that Craig and I want to talk about, because the world is ever changing with the election coming. First things first, though, Craig, you got to do This Is Your Life, talk about them, all of them, all 11 of them, including
Let's see, what time
mine.
is it?
Yeah,
How much time do we have? Usually when I get into a review and clients start asking about the kids or whatever, 45 minutes into the review and we only have an hour, we finally start to talk about their portfolio.
well, see, for your 25th visit, it's just an update because you've done this like
Yeah.
24 times before. So go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, kids are doing well. Michaela's down in Florida. She's studying for her second degree in music outside of economics. So she's enjoying that part of her life, if you will. My son Christian's back home. He's kind of being an entrepreneur himself, and where he's basically been hiring himself out for a lot of labor and doing well because one, finding quality people to do little things around their houses or local areas, and finding someone that's willing to work hard and show up on time. That's an invaluable resource. And so that's what he's been doing, taking his time off over the next year or so before he's kind of jumps into a career type environment, if that's what he's called to do. My son Charlie, he's out in Atchison, Kansas. He's taking a semester off this winter, if you will, or I guess winter, because it would have been starting in January. And he'd be working for a company called Alltech. So he's working out there in the research and development area for boom trucks is what Alltech does. So you'll see some of the Alltech trucks out here and for DTE and Consumers Energy and some tree cutting services, et cetera. And so that's what he'll be is actually working on. So it's kind of exciting for him. I'm excited for him as well. My daughter Miriam, she's back home from being down in Texas.
Survived the rattlesnake bite.
Yep, and she's doing well from that, fortunately. So that's truly a true blessing.
That is
And
for
she's looking at some other additional opportunities. So she just shared that with me, possibly working on a ranch out in the Wyoming area, starting in May. So we'll see how that goes. But she's kind of another one of my entrepreneurs along those lines. And of course, my son Peyton, he's my mechanic around the house, working on all the tractors that we've got going on. And even more recently, he just sent me a video letting me know I got my truck back. So I had a truck that had replaced a motor on it, and he sent me a video of it and saying, "Hey, it all looks good, Dad. Things are running great." I'm like, yes, got our truck back. So that's a nice, beautiful thing. And he was working on another truck that I've got down. If it's not one thing, it's another. So when you're trying to do kind of a hobby farm stuff, it doesn't make it, it does not make it easy for sure. And so, yes, and my son, Zachariah is also kind of doing a lot of woodworking items. Again, a lot of different things. My kids are doing a wide variety of areas. So truly blessed. And everyone at this point in time, knock on wood, is pretty healthy. So
What do you think about the change in the whole aspect of homeschooling? I know we're pivoting a little bit here, but I always like to pick your brain on that because you guys have been you've homeschooled all of these wonderful children of yours.
Yeah, 20 years, 20 plus years. Yeah.
Yep. How long now?
Over 20 years since Michaela was a baby. So
the proliferation after COVID of homeschooling, I think there's a lot of listeners out there that might pique their interest just to kind of hear, a 1 minute takeaway on homeschooling tip or anything like that. Why don't you throw that out there for everybody? Go ahead, please.
Well, I mean, homeschooling, it's a calling. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. When you're going through and when we decided to homeschool over 20 years ago, we had some great role models and exposure for families who've been homeschooling for long periods of time. And a lot of it was driven by the character development of their kids and the exposure of how their kids will respond and their ability to interact with adults, teenagers, and even kids themselves. A lot of homeschoolers are typically larger families, and a lot of the proliferation that's been taking place, the question really becomes, are they homeschooling for the right reasons or the wrong reasons? And then you have to define, well, what is the right reason and what are the wrong reasons? And so the purpose for us to raise our children to homeschool wasn't necessarily to say that our kids are going to be the brightest or smartest or most talented kids out there. We started recognizing that not all of our kids are going to be brainiacs, but the school systems, they've gotten rid of home ec. There's no home economics in a lot of the public school systems. You're not, the kids aren't learning shop class. They're not learning how to work with their hands. And so we're starting to see issues with those labors nowadays. So decisions my wife and I made 15, 20 years ago, it's being very evident today that we recognize there's going to be issues, and we want our kids to have a skill set that if they needed to run and take care of the household, they would be able to do that. And now they're of that age, and they're being very well and capable of doing this. But on top of that, the character development. So the kids, instead of spending 8 hours plus a day with peers and getting affirmation from peers in regards to ideologies that may not align with what we do at home, they are being formed in our situation in a Christian household to love their neighbor, to love their friends, to love their enemies in many respects. And that, I think, has spoken volumes in regards to how they interact with themselves, with their siblings, and with new individuals. So that's our purpose for homeschooling.
Craig Stiles is our guest today, everybody. Financial fitness. Love doing financial fitness because we get to learn every time we do the radio program, we get to learn something. That's the whole point of why we do the radio program. We're learning something. And if you're not learning something every day, as I learned from a professor, a very, very smart professor at Michigan State a long time ago, learn something new every day. That's why I love doing these interviews, because you can do the deep dive. Homeschooling is really important to talk about. I'm glad Craig had a second to talk about that. Today, we're going to talk about performance review for our account with Ameriprise. And I'll give you the read here in a second here when we come back out of the second break, because Craig, as you know, is our financial fitness guru, and he is a sponsor of the show, and he is our financial advisor. So we are like lockstep about 14 different ways. That's why he's here, and that's why we want you to think about getting a hold of Craig and Ameriprise. Craig Stiles, performance review. You're listening to the Tom Matt Show.
Bada boom, bada bang.
Exactly.
What a wonderful thing. So,
Piece of
yeah,
cake.
no, education is usually pretty passionate about me in regards to it. So I thought, like, even right now, I hate not to put in perspective, but like the Attorney General that we have here in Michigan is, as well as some of the politicians we have, are trying to get into create a regulatory environment for homeschoolers again.
I heard something about that. I wondered, do you want to talk about that?
It's
Or do
I
we
don't
want
mean
to
it's
go into business?
I don't know if it's good for your show just from the dynamic of the political
Okay.
ramifications of it, and I wouldn't want to, just because it's there, and I wouldn't want to turn anybody off from me.
Oh, let's see. Yeah, thank you. Okay, that's great. That's if something does happen, then we'll use it as a topic, because I always think that you talking about homeschooling is very important.
Yeah.
And again, post-COVID, as I said, is
And that's why I kind of touched on make sure people are homeschooling for the right reasons and not the wrong reasons. But then what's happening is people are redefining what is right and what is wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
And that starts getting into the faith and all that kind of
Now we
stuff.
start getting into the weeds totally. Okay, here we go.
Exactly.
Oh, I got to do this read for this Craig guy. Hold on. Here we go. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Tom Matt Show. Financial fitness with Craig. Performance review coming at you here in a second. This segment is sponsored by Ameriprise Financial and Craig Stiles. Again, full disclosure, as I've said, I don't know, at least 25 times, that in all of the shows that I've done, so much more than that. Craig Stiles is our financial advisor. He has all of our retirement zone savings. Craig, we got to tell Ameriprise that they can use the retirement zone savings and really get people pumped up about that. I will have to talk about doing a little license deal on that. We can make that happen.
Maybe get one of our checking accounts, call them retirement zone savings for that.
There you go. Exactly. I mean, so Craig is our Ameriprise financial advisor. He can help you plan for the life you want today, like he has done for us and continues to do with us. And we're going to talk about what we're going to do into the future, like this next year, as soon as we get done with this recording session. That's how I got the idea. Let's talk about this. Why do you need a performance review? And it's just, we'll talk about it in a second here. With the right financial advisor, like a Craig, or any of his colleagues, life can be brilliant. Be-ism. Call Craig 1-800-528-1355, please, or 517-483-4893. Email is craig.stiles@ampf.com. Offices are located at 2400 Lake Lansing Road. Suite B is in brilliant Lansing, Michigan, 48912. Stations that have carried us in the past, I thank all the stations that have carried us throughout the years, all over the place. WGHN in Grand Haven, WGIM 1240 AM in Lansing is a flagship, WJRW 1340 in Grand Rapids, WKLQ 1490 Muskegon, WYPV FM 94.5, for example, and of course WKAR 102.3 FM, and the big rocket ship, the AM 870 tower, carrying us all the way to Lake Michigan, East Lansing, Michigan State University. Go green, baby. Craig Stiles. We're going to talk about Decidery Analytics a little more deep dive today, everybody, because I typically have this as part of my my talk for the sponsorship of this segment. But Decidery Analytics is very, very important for you to understand. And so we want to thank Craig for creating Decidery, where we are making light of weighted decisions. Also, I want to thank Steve and Ivy Gruber, awesome people, totally awesome, carrying us on the Michigan Talk Network. We appreciate them very much. And we have 4 books on Amazon that you can purchase. And I tell you what, Maximize book is it's having a comeback 10 years later. Younger people are reading it, and they're getting a hold of me. It's crazy. It's crazy. Craig, performance review. You mentioned a couple of terms and why this must happen and why we really should be aware of this when you're looking for a financial advisor. So let's start at the beginning. I mean, what's the why behind the performance review?
Well, in our situation, being fiduciaries on a client's account if we're a fiduciary on one account only, and regardless of the value of it, we want to meet with the client or sit down with them within a 12-month period. So during that time period, the objective is making sure that what we're doing, because we're making the buys and sells within the portfolio, or hiring a third-party investment or institutional manager to do the buys and sells for the client, to meet specific goals. And that goal could be reduced volatility, could be generating a specific amount of income. It could be a growth of income over time. It could become capital appreciation. It could be a total return, whatever the objective is. And making sure that it is continuing to be in alignment with what the client's needs and goals are. And in many circumstances, it's also helping the client to define and understand themselves what their needs and what their goals are. And so that in our industry, you always get marketed to time and time again. You'll hear something, well, they are here to help your needs and your goals. And people are going to sit there, yeah, that's right. I need my needs and my goals. What are my needs and what are my goals? I have no idea. And in many circumstances, they don't know what questions to ask themselves to make sure that their needs and goals are met. And so going through this process, it's kind of an educational piece from one year to the next, and making sure I'm sitting down with clients and with the thousands of investment products that are out there, we want to make sure that we're utilizing the certain criteria, and this is where Decidery's always come in, to help them understand what risks are, and making sure they understand what the risks are relative to finding the product to meet their needs. And I think 2022 was a great example of what people thought were safe haven assets have a level of risk as well, being fixed income. And a lot of fixed income products were down 15, 20%. And people were aghast, to where I'm supposed to be a moderate investor, and I'm down 20, 25%. My fixed income is down that amount. But wait a minute, a client that was in 100% value stocks may have been flat to slightly down. And so they go, well, that's safer than when I'm in the 60-40 with bonds. It's a matter of how you define what safety is, what your definition of risk is. And so our industry has a specific definition of risk, but sometimes that doesn't align when a client's goals and objectives and their needs with that of what the industry calls for.
And of course, life changes. I mean, you have all of the life shifting that we talk about. Craig Stiles, our guest today, everybody. Performance review, we're calling this, with financial fitness with Ameriprise. As you know, everybody, Craig is our financial advisor. He is a sponsor of the program, has been for a long time. He's a very, very good friend. Love him to death. He's greatness. And, you know, it's so, for me personally, everybody, it's so comforting. And I've said this, but it's true. Comforting to be able to just focus on what I do, because I'm pretty good at a few things. I like to say I'm really good at a couple of things, but there's a lot of things I'm not very good at. And so acknowledging that, acknowledging the fact that Sandy's our she runs the business finance side through Craig. And so, and other people, Nikolai Luke as well as our CPA, you got to have the right people taking care of biz. And that's what we do. And that's what we have done. And so, with my scatterbrain, it's like, it's awesome having him around. So I'm telling you, it's so comforting. Craig, we got a minute and a half to go before we go to break. Please set up the next couple of segments and where you want to go with this and what we want to discuss with our listeners? Go ahead, please.
Quite frankly, sticking with the portfolio review, it goes beyond just that of looking at the numbers like we were talking about before, making sure that your powers of attorneys are set up, your beneficiary information is still accurate, all of that type of stuff that we have talked about historically or during meetings, a lot of those administrative items. And then quite frankly, just having the regular conversation. How are things going? You know, how's the business going? What's the finances for the business looking like? Because all of that gets incorporated. And it's not just always just looking at the numbers, because I recognize that everything that I do from a product selection standpoint, clients can do for themselves. But I view that every client that's investing in the market, they are actually entrepreneurs, because that portfolio needs to supplement their income from when they were working. And so they, in essence, are entrepreneurs and will be entrepreneurs into their retirement and through their retirement. And at some point, they're going to hire someone such as myself to be their CFO for their company.
And that's the whole thing about being in the retirement zone. I love, and again, everybody, you can take one route, you can go in the retirement zone and that's fine. Or you can go to the retirement zone where I live and what we do. And it's all about what's the next best thing or several more that we're going to be doing to make the world a better place. Because as you have to understand that you have so much value. People who have retired from their careers and are sitting well, and they need something to do. You have value. Never ever think you don't have value out there to help schools. There's so many volunteer opportunities. There's businesses like ours that we've created. There's all kinds of stuff, but to have somebody like a Craig managing things for us makes it, again, I'm going to say it for the third time, comforting. Performance review, Ameriprise, Craig Stiles. This is the Tom Matt Show.
Perfect.
I love doing radio. Can you tell?
You love doing radio? Is that because I have a face for because I have a face for it? Is that what you're saying? Oh, wait a minute. I got a camera up here. There you go.
What do you
Is
think?
Is that a better face for radio?
Yeah, no, that's terrible. Hey, what do you think about some of the stuff that I've sent you on what Vanessa's doing, our new virtual assistant? Did you saw those little, she's doing all those little clips for us. If you look at Instagram at all or Facebook, you'll see a bunch of new stuff. It's easier to see it on Instagram because you can do that big long tile thing, but she's making a massive difference for going through the shows. And I'll tell you, Craig, that's just been a godsend. I mean, we've only had her for a couple of months, 2.5 months now.
I'll be honest. When you said VA Vanessa, I'm like, VA, a veteran?
No, she's the virtual assistant in the Philippines.
Got it.
She's awesome. And she tracked me down over LinkedIn for years. She pitched me. She's a younger woman. She's awesome. She'll love hearing this stuff if she sees this, but she listens to the show. She did the buy-in. And like I told her when we first, I was grateful to her for continuing, because I would say, hey, get a hold of me in 6 months, for like 3 years. And she finally did. And you know what? You got something on your lens when you put your
hand, I stuck my thumb on.
all of a sudden you're foggy. But she
my guess is oil from my thumb. Let me see if I can
probably, let's see if you can.
All right, don't worry.
No worries. So just a little technical thing here. You got a little bit more there. It's not good enough. Anyways, so she's working for us 2 hours a day. Yeah, that's great.
Okay,
2 hours a day and creating this content. But I told her in our Zoom, and we've had several Zoom meetings, that you need to really buy into the show to be effective for us. You need to understand what we're doing. And if you buy in, this can work. And she did. She listens to the show. She loves it. And she's younger. And it's like, I said, you got creative, this open palette here. Just do whatever you think. You get it now. Make us look good. And she's doing a great job on the video stuff. And she's not editing video for me yet, but she's doing a lot of like short clip stuff that we never did before. It's just it's one of those things where you just don't have the time. So you see your stuff, you'll see these little pieces that she pulls out, puts pictures, looks fantastic. I mean, so I sent a clip over to Brock yesterday, and I know you guys are busy and you don't see the recaps that I send over to you, show for the podcast, but I sent him because I'm putting a ton of time into the excerpts now, editing wise, graphics. That's where the energy's going, because it's all time consuming. And so just adds to the whole flavor of everything. It makes the experience for our people much better. Here we go. Vanessa's been awesome.
Awesome. That's great.
Yep. Here we go. I get my reads here. Third segment of the Tom Matt Show is gratefully sponsored by our new sponsor, White Law. I'm telling you, Jamie White, if you haven't seen his first episode or listened to his first episode, however you like to do the show on YouTube or on just the audio, go check that out because it was so good. I'm so excited to have another expert. You know, we have our financial fitness with Craig, who's on today. We've got Brock Fletcher and the reality of real estate. And I don't have a title yet for our law dog guy who's going to be on here talking about lawyering up. But I'll tell you, White Law is your advocate in times of need, and he's our guy. And his whole crew over there they're awesome. They are there to listen, support, and fight for what you deserve. Keep that in mind. It's also sponsoring the Mad Dog Minutes. So any of the content that you want to get from these guys, the phone numbers, all of these things, they're all there. But here, let me give them to you right here. Contact White Law today for a free, I said free, baby, consultation. Visit at whitelawpllc.com or call 517-777-9785. That is White Law, and we're grateful to Jamie and the whole crew for what they're doing, and love the story. So check it out. And again, TomMattShow.com, bottom of the homepage, where you can find all of our guys. Craig's there, Brock's there, Jamie's there. We got a few friends there that we help out. So that's the hot spot, everybody. You can get all of our content over there. You know that. TomMattShow.com. All right, back to Craig, 25th visit. Always fun. You know, we could do 3 hours. Craig would be a guy I could easily do 3 hours with, for sure. But we're in a 1 hour show. That's the way it works. So if you missed any portion of the show so far, we talked a little homeschooling. Really what I started with was a performance review of our account with Ameriprise, because, you know, we're with Ameriprise and Craig is our financial fitness guru and our advisor. Craig mentioned in the previous segment what risks are, because these are what we're going to talk about with them being a fiduciary performance review. What is safety? Craig, please continue. This is a fascinating conversation on a portfolio review. And as life changes, people change, needs change, job change. I like the entrepreneurial living, the way you said that. Right on, brother. That's the retirement zone 101.
Right. Right. And there's always a pro and con in regards to products that are used within clients' portfolios. When you talked about the generation of income, if clients need to have guaranteed income, then you start looking at types of insurance products. But then that also starts to restrict usage of the assets, to where if a client is a business owner and they want to be able to leverage, you can't really leverage an insurance product that's providing a guaranteed income to you. So that means we have to accumulate assets in other areas, which really define what is a client doing today, what is a desire to do later on going forward, even to the point of where if a client is younger, if they like being involved in real estate, they want to invest into real estate properties. Well, if they've been accumulating everything inside their 401ks, IRAs, or whatever it might be, then it's very difficult for them to get the assets out effective and efficiently, and then to reinvest and buy like a rental home, or buy into a rental home, or buy into a business that may provide them greater growth later on. So there's always going to be pros and cons in every decision that we make. But from the perspective of these portfolio reviews, it's almost kind of like in your situation, right? As a retiree, you're a business owner. Your investments that we are managing is a part of your business. The Tom Matt Show is a part of your business. One's going to be supporting the other. One's going to be helping to accumulate the other, if you will, as assets continue to grow. So from that perspective, with you and Sandy hiring me to be the CFO of the business, I'm held responsible to both you and Sandy. Right? You're going to need to know, okay, Craig, what's the forecast? How is our business going to be doing over the next 12 to 18 months, or until our next board meeting, right? So basically, that's what a lot of these reviews end up being in many circumstances, is kind of a board meeting as a part of that business, making sure that the accounts are properly titled. Who am I going to be? Basically like succession planning that even like every business would have. What does that succession planning look like if something was to happen to either one of you? In the situation, then one person ends up taking over 100% of the business. And then of course, if something happens to both you and Sandy, who's the next person in line, from that perspective. So that's been my view, and excuse me, that view's evolved because there's a lot of folks in my industry that are very sales oriented. And so they'll be looking at a product and they'll sell specific products and they'll stay within that regardless of where the clients are. So if someone was to look at my book of business, the products that clients are using is different based on what the market conditions were like when a client started working with me. The products are always going to be changing. They're always going to be looking a little bit different in the back end. And if something is significantly performing, and that performance can mean anything. That performance could be lower levels of volatility. That performance could be an opportunity for increasing income on products to where if you had dividend paying stocks that had dropped significantly and a client starts now, I'm like, well, here's an opportunity for an income generating strategy with the markets are down significantly. That is an opportunity for an income strategy to actually be a growth opportunity. That gets really confusing for clients. Well, value, growth, what does this mean? Growth can actually be value, and I don't get that. Well, that's where some of the education pieces come in and why people hire us as a CFO, because I do recognize everything I do, clients can do on their own. But that's why it makes me think, well, they are entrepreneurs.
Well,
They have
that's
to
why
make a
that's
decision.
why you created Decidery. I mean, and we'll
Right.
talk about that a little bit more here.
Yep.
We'll set this up in a second here, but I got a couple of comments on what you just said. Craig Stiles, our guest today, everybody. Performance review. Excellent, excellent stuff to talk about here. What I took away from what Craig just said, everybody, is you have these supporting columns in your life. Okay. So you're in the refirement zone like I am. I am not retired. I am refired. Although when I see people at the university, I tell them I'm refired or retired because they think if I say refired, they think I got fired. And no, that's not what happened. It's a little talk about confusing. That gets a little confusing. But when you do this, you need these support columns because if you have the right people in the right places to support the enterprise of your life, it doesn't have to be a business. It's your life. It's your choice. You choose what you're going to do with it. We chose to continue to build this business, this media company, which has done pretty decent. I mean, as a small business goes, we're still on the air and radio stations all over the place, and podcast has done pretty darn well. And all of it was working, but without the supporting columns of people like Craig Stiles being our CFO, helping and assisting Sandy, without Nikolai Luke being the CPA who we can ask questions about, and then all of the other supporters. But you got to have the key people, Craig, I'm going to let you kind of riff on that for a second. We got about a minute to go before we go to break, and we'll come back. We'll continue to talk about this. Go right ahead, please.
Just again, kind of leading up to that dynamic and that mindset for me, as you know, having an engineering background with the concentration in finance for my post degree, if you will, sales is not my thing. Answering that question, why me? Why my firm? Why this product that you're being invested in? That's what led to the Decidere Analytics platform, because everybody in my industry, they're either going to purchase a tool to help them assist a client and kind of proof, because now we get into regulation BI, reg BI, and to prove to other people that they're working on your best interest, and or they're going to have their own philosophy and how they go about selecting it. But why is their philosophy better than anyone else's? How can they prove it? And that's why quite frankly, answering that question, why Decidere Analytics has been a very stabilizing product that I've built for benefiting our clients.
And we'll talk more about Decidery. That was a perfect segue. Thank you for doing that, Craig, setting that all up, because when we come back, the note that I have here, we will jump into this when we come back from break, everybody, with Craig Stiles from Ameriprise, doing a performance review is the title of this episode. I wrote down comfort zone stocks by some of these people that are out there. They find their comfort zone and they stay in the groove, where with Decidery, the comfort zone is the whole enchilada. It ain't, it ain't just a couple of picks here and there. See, I come up with some cool stuff here and there once in a while, but I see that's the whole thing about listening to your people. When you listen to your people, you should get something in return if you're actually listening to what they're having to say, because we're paying people to do things so that they can help us. Again, Craig Stiles, performance review, financial fitness, Ameriprise. This is the Tom Mann Show. I came up with one before. If whenever we have conversations, my spontaneous combustion brain, and it comes in and then it's gone. That's why I have to write everything down. But it's like said something about one of your statements. But yeah, comfort zone stocks I took away from that is like, well, yeah, that's why. And people do this with comfort zone with everything, with their gym routines, with ever driving home,
Yep.
everything. It's all
Yep.
based on just habit, and that is that serving you? Is that the best for you? I don't know. That's why you do a performance review.
Well, see,
So
well, you're just highlighting on another factor, right? When I was even talking with Stephanie the other day. So,
you want to save this? You want to save this for the show?
no, we can. Yeah.
Okay,
Talk about it, yeah.
Because I can see you're getting into a nice story here, and it's like, hold on. This is gold. This is gold. We got to do it on radio. Here we go. All right. This is so fun. I enjoy the shit out of this. Welcome back, everybody. Performance review with Craig Stiles Financial Fitness. Love it. Ameriprise. During break, we started to have a little, we always riff could be for a long time between segments. And some good things were coming up here, and we're going to talk about that in just a sec. But before we do that, I want to mention our key columns, supporting column for this radio program is Brock Fletcher. He is the guy. When it comes to the real estate industry, he's helped us. He maximized everything that we could do. He hit his numbers. He was a friend. He offered me advice for when he didn't even know who I was. I don't know what else to say. Same thing with Craig, Jamie, all came from Dave DeMarco. Dave DeMarco introduced me to all of these really key people, and I always like to acknowledge Dave. Dave was just on the show. We just had him on this past weekend, actually. Call Brock Fletcher, 517-853-6408, or his cell phone number is 303-3262. You can go online to kwsellingteam.com, kwsellingteam.com. You can Google search Brock's name. He's here quarterly minimum to do his reality real estate. And he really has a lot of really excellent content on the website. Go check those out. Most agents and companies, they start spending money on marketing when they get your listing. Brock's been doing this for so long now with Keller Williams. They're so big and they're so well trained that he spends thousands before. And part of that is helping us. And we're again grateful to all of our sponsors who help us do these things. But we want to bring you the messaging. We want to bring you our columns of people between Jamie and Craig and Brock. You can't go wrong with these three guys. I mean, it's just no way. And they all have a huge network. So that's the thing about our sponsors is they might be local mid-Michigan people, but they're connected to huge companies. So they can vet anybody. If you want to make a call, you just got a question, they're all of them are approachable, especially Brock. He's the best when it comes to his changing his messages on his cell phone, guys, way over the top. All right, back to Craig. I left the previous segment, everybody, because Craig made a comment. We were talking about this performance review and going through it and how some of these brokers make, or I guess that's what you call them, brokers. They get in a comfort zone, just like everybody else gets in a comfort zone in your fitness, in your diet, in your driving routines, whatever. Everybody gets in a comfort zone. That's a habit. That's the way the brain works. That doesn't really serve us that well when it comes to our financial fitness. You need somebody and this is an absolute fact, you need somebody who's a broad spectrum, like a Decidery with Craig Stiles. Craig, there you go. How's that? Does that tee that one up for you? And talking about.
You actually brought it up to even another point, because I was kind of looking at the comfort zone from the client's perspective, but from the advisor perspective, with the products that they use and they recommend, they become very familiar with certain insurance companies, how the administration and everything for the companies work, where from one financial institution to another, even though they're all insurance companies, their administrative responsibilities may look differently. They may interpret regulation BI or regulation best interest requirements a little bit differently, whatever that structure might be. And so you'll have some that might be a little more strict, some that might be a little looser in how they administer and service products or accounts or advisors in many ways. But then when you're sitting there trying to prove that what you're doing is in the best interest of the client, and everything comes right back down to the product that is offered. And is that product that is being offered meeting the needs of the clients? And then if it is, excuse me, if it is, how so? How is it meeting the need of the clients? It's like, and one of the great examples that I kind of highlight as an area, one of the areas of Regulation BI talks about fee structures that are affiliated with it. So if a client can go out, and that's why you see all of these online trading platforms going down to zero fees. And I'm like, well, if they're doing zero fees, how are they getting paid to offer their online trading platforms or accessibilities? And of course, they utilize volume or relationships with underlying products, with either with money market funds or whatever the arrangement might be.
There's a way. They're
There's a
getting
way, and
paid.
that's right. So if you're not paying for the service, who is? And
Right.
so if someone else is paying for that service, how do you know that what is being recommended to you is in your best interest?
Yes.
And so that's why, as a fiduciary, right, all of our fee structure is completely open to the client as to what they're paying, where that money's coming from. And from that perspective, it's our clients pay it. And so that way, when I go through and do the performance reviews, everything that we have is net of fees. So this way, the net result is what the clients live off of. Just like when you're going home, isn't it great in the first job that you got, hey, I'm making $45,000 a year or 60,000 a year or whatever it is, and you break it down and you're like, all right, this is how much money I'm taking home. And then you come back to like, oh, wait a minute. My take home is not the 50 or 60,000 a year that my job is. So am I getting paid? Is my employer not paying me what they said? No, they are. But you're getting your taxes taken out, you get your healthcare benefits taken out, you're getting all these things taken out. And at the end of the day, that's what you're living off of. So in the same dynamic, when a client is going through and they can do everything themselves, let's buy that S&P 500 index fund. Okay. And that's going to be like Fidelity's, Vanguard's, whatever, the Schwab, whatever it is, they're all S&P 500. And then they race by who can offer this same exact fund at a lower cost. Now the objective is that working in the client's best interest, or how important is fee relative to net result? What is that ultimate net result going to be for the client? And that net result could be, again, reduction of volatility within a portfolio, total return, how much money do they need to withdraw out of the portfolio, all of that comes into play. And then making sure that whatever of those criteria are selected, which one is going to be most important to the client. And then for me to be able to select a process, very rarely do I actually look at the performance. I look at other types of ratios, what we've talked about, like the alphas, the betas, the Sortino ratios, and some of those other criteria, which are academic in nature, but that gives me some insight into the ability of the asset manager. How well are they buying and selling stocks, right? If you look at batting average, everyone kind of understands batting average, because if you could, a person that comes up to bat and they get a 0.37, right? I'm like, wow, that's actually pretty good for a person batting, but that means they only hit the ball 3.7% of the time that they're up to bat out of 100, right? They're hitting the ball 37 times out of 100. So and they say that's good. Well, in batting average in finances, basically is like, well, out of 100, if you have an 80, that means 80 stocks out of 100 stocks, you actually made money. But it doesn't tell you how much money they made, right? And like, I like to use the S&P 500. They have like the Magnificent Seven, right? Alphabet, Netflix, Meta, Nvidia. These are all companies that are for the, 7 or 8 companies that actually drove the performance of the S&P 500 to where it has been over the last couple of years. So out of 500 companies, you got 6 or 7 that are over 35 to 40% of the performance of the actual index. So can you sustain that level of volatility, or is it worth hiring an institutional strategy that can give you the more stable returns in good markets and bad, to meet your longer term or even shorter term goals and objectives? And then what accounts do you apply that for?
All
So
right.
tax efficiency, all that fun stuff.
All right, we're gonna come up on break here in just a second here, and I gotta make a couple of comments because I came up with another brainstorm listening to this brainiac talk. Craig Stiles is our guest today, performance review. I thought when you were just talking about that with those 7 or 8 big stocks, kind of think about this way, everybody. They're like the Rolling Stones or what's the big time singer, the young woman,
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift. Thank you. Taylor Swift. See how clueless I am?
So are you not a Swiftie? Are you not a
Yeah.
Swiftie? Is that what
Okay.
you're telling me?
So basically what Craig's saying is, okay, so if you're a musician and you're out there and you say, well, they're making all this money. I mean, I want to get a piece of that action. Okay. There's millions of musicians out there, and there's about 6 or 7 big acts that are actually doing really well. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? The
Yep.
analogy of the
Yep.
rock star analogy.
Yep.
So the rock star always gets all the pub. The rock star gets all the attention.
Yep.
But behind the scenes, what about the roadies? What about all the people doing the heavy lift? What about all the people? There are tons and tons of things happening behind the scenes to support this. And there are so many smaller performers that are damn good.
Yep.
And you just don't know. You see, and if you don't get the attention, you don't even know about them.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. That's why
Yep.
we get to talk to Craig and the products that are offered, the fee and net results. Wrote that down. Write that one down, everybody. Net results. Because you
Right.
may say, hey, I got a 30% return and everything's so great. Yeah, okay. Maybe we'll talk about that when we come back, because we got to talk about the future going forward, this part of this year. And Craig's here quarterly, and we like to get caught up on what's moving forward. I like it. I think he's awesome. Performance reviews. Craig Stiles. He is our CFO with Ameriprise. This is the Tom Mann Show. Like that one? Rock star.
See, I even got off on the comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah. Check
Got
that
into
out.
had 3 different bullet points to be able to touch on the comfort zone, and it was like,
Look
all
at
right, from
that.
another perspective, advice for,
See,
but
that's what
it's evolved into a new era.
Well, no, that's why having you is like, it's so much fun, actually.
Yeah.
And I know you enjoy this and you're so good at this stuff. This is a perfect venue for you. It fits all of us really well, but you've gotten so good. You were always good, but man, our little rapport that we have is it's popular. Here we go. This is plug time, Decidery website, all of that. And I'm just going to throw you a couple of bones and you just take it wherever direction you want to go. You're doing your usual awesome self. So you ready?
Ready.
Okay. Best way to get a hold of us, everybody, is our website, tommattshow.com. Contact box, bottom of the homepage. Our sponsors are there. Craig's there. Financial Fitness. We got Brock Fletcher, Reality Real Estate, Jamie White, Law Dog, but I haven't figured that one out yet. I got to talk to him about it. Kind of like that a little bit, but Sandy didn't like it, so probably won't be that. And several of our friends, please go there. Whatever social media is your flavor, we're on them all. I mean, I'm not a huge Twitter person. I probably should put more time into Twitter.
X,
It's only
X,
so much.
X.
Oh yeah,
X.
excuse me. See, that's again clueless. Taylor Swift, X, Twitter. Okay, that's why we have a virtual assistant who's helping us with all this, because we're growing, and you got to have professionals helping you do these things. And so Craig is our CFO. He manages our business for us, which is our life, and that's greatness. All right, there, bud. How do you want people to get a hold of you? Say
The easiest.
Tommy called. Tommy's told me to call.
Exactly. I think the best way to do that is go to the bottom of the Tom Matt Show, go to the website and click on the link down below, and that'll give you access to what we're doing for sure.
Nice
And
job.
that's the best
What a
way to
high
go.
feed to that hoop for weather. How good was that high feed?
That works. And so even just being able to search my name on the internet. So Craig, Craig Stiles at Ameriprise, you'll find us and you have access to it. And so typically by reaching out there, there's even the ability for you to send an email or send a message. Hey, I'd like to schedule a time. I do get email notifications from there. And then excuse me, I can follow up. So you'll provide your email address, your cell number, or your phone number, and then I'll follow back up with you and we'll schedule a time. That's
There you
usually
go.
one of the easiest ways.
All right, so we've got the comfort zone. It's a couple of Tomisms today. Comfort zone as far as financial fitness. Craig like that one. Rockstar analogy, kind of like that one. I like fee and net results. But the other thing that I really liked from you, Craig, was these two things: what the risks are and what is safety. Because if you're in the retirement zone, the last thing that I want, I do not, and I know this won't happen. I don't want to get a phone call saying, Hey, by the way, sorry, I gotta give you some bad news. I'm breaking up. You're breaking up with your money, and it's like, what do you mean? Yeah, it left. It's gone. How's that one? That's a third. That's another good one. We're breaking up with. I don't want to break up with our money. I want our money to be happy and grow and be
Yep.
well maintained and cared for. You are
Yep.
the gardener of our financial garden. There you
Yep.
go. But set you up for that one. Go ahead.
Well, well, there's several farming analogies that I've used as it relates to growing one's portfolio as well through that whole process. Being a farmer in many respects, that kind of helped out. Where you got to cultivate it, you got to nurture it. You're not going to get fruit right away. A little bit later on down the line, make sure you got a solid root system. You know, the whole gambit. Yeah, we can come up with a gazillion different ways of analogies for the portfolios and whatnot. But the dynamic of making sure that the products that you have is appropriate or the strategies are appropriate. Because again, a lot of people find comfort in fixed income, but sometimes the fixed income instruments aren't going to provide what clients need over time. Just to use $100,000 bond portfolio, if clients are getting 5% interest on a $100,000 bond in the 1 year that they need 6,000, you're going to have to sell some of that bond in order to get you 5,000 or give you that 6,000 when it's only generating 5,000. Well, bonds aren't designed for growth. So that means the very next year, your income is actually going to be less than 5,000 because you had to sell some of what was generating. Now we have to say we're starting to get into a position where you are going to have to be exposed to some greater areas of volatility because stocks are designed for growth. Understanding that volatility will mean that some of the performance will drop, but just because if the performance drops, it doesn't mean that you can't draw the same $5,000 out. The opportunity for growth the next year is always going to be there. That's why when we have the conversation of what can your withdrawal rate be, regardless of whether good markets are bad. When clients start, we typically have that net of fees and everything, 4 to 6% withdrawal rate. So if a client has $1 million portfolio, they could take $50,000 out this year without any issues. So if a client had $1 million portfolio at the beginning of 2020 or 2022, and then it dropped to $200 or to $800,000, drops 20% in that year, am I still comfortable with the client taking the 50,000 out that they need? Absolutely. Because the strategy that we started at the beginning of a really bad year, and then the markets, dropped, client takes out that 50,000, you stick with the investment discipline, the next year, the portfolio is going to grow maybe above and beyond. It may take a year or two, but even the next year, I'm still comfortable with the client taking out that 50,000, whatever they may need, and the year after that, and the year after that. And so that has been basically the alignment of investment product strategies, meeting what the client's goals and objectives are. So sometimes, what does that comfort zone look like for the client, and helping them to understand the importance of making sure that what they are invested in isn't just an index fund or isn't just a fixed income instrument that's going to give them some area of guarantee, but also understanding what their goals and objectives are, what they want their money to do for them later on down the line.
That leads right into Decidery, because what Craig just said with the $1 million portfolio and then maybe 800,000, you're still sticking with the same strategy because his theories and his plans are sound. So talk about Decidery and how that gives you that edge. The whole thing, you got plenty of time to talk about it. We've talked about it in the past, but it's been a while. And I think people need to understand what puts you over the top is Decidery. And you've had people come along want to buy it off you. I mean, for God's sake.
Well, I'd love that. Bring it. Come on, guys. But when I shared with you earlier about even the comfort zone of the advisor, right? Sometimes advisors will have their own, what is it that separates them from other advisors? Sometimes they use products. Well, we use alternative investments, or we utilize this, or we, have a specific platform and how we manage or separate clients at whatever it might be. Advisors try to distinguish themselves in one form or another. And in my situation, because I'm horrible at sales. I flat out am. I can't sit down with a person and try to sell a product. So if a person said, hey, Craig, take this can of Coke or Pepsi, whatever, and sell it to somebody who doesn't need it. I can't just go off and do it. If a person doesn't need it, I'm not going to turn around and try to sell it to them in many respects. But when I sit there and think about having to answer the question why for a client, I mean, literally prospecting, reaching out to try to call a client And people at the time when I was starting in the industry, they were investing longer than I've been alive. So why would that person want to invest in me? So I had to understand, well, what is it about these products that a client would want to use? How do we find and rank and sort them? And so that became my internal process to try to separate what I do relative to other individuals. But then it started expanding beyond that because it really started becoming more than just a selection tool. It became more or less my comfort zone because it answered that question, why me? Why my firm? Why this particular product? And that is what has been driving me more specifically and basically providing me with the comfort that when I make a recommendation to a client, I'm comfortable with that recommendation. Doesn't mean it's not going to change. And then if that product, for whatever reason, falls out of the top 10, 15, or 20, we already have history with the client as to, is this product still meeting its goals and objectives? What have changed in their search criteria or the products behind to where that may have dropped off? Does that mean we get completely out of the product or do we keep it? And so that helps to drive the conversation and educate the client on what they actually own and the process that they have and how it compares with what is available to them that's outstanding. So
Good. Excellent. I like the word
that's
when
my
you're
process.
almost wrapping this thing up with educate. On a takeaway, and you got a minute and a half, 2 minutes to go here, Craig. So you got plenty of time to talk about a recap. But educating, today's episode, everybody, was a performance review and financial fitness all blended together, and Craig and homeschooling and all kinds of stuff, just like we always do. So what would be your takeaway now with the performance review? I'm looking forward to doing the performance review, where before I told Karen, I told Sandy, I said, I don't really want to do this because, I got stuff to do. And well, we got to do it. Okay. But now I'm like, I'm looking forward to it because it's like, okay, cool. I totally, and then you close with this and I'll give you my closing after Craig's done. I trust Craig.
Well,
That's
as we're talking from that aspect, educate, evaluate, and implement, right? Basically go through the process. What we're trying to is educate our clients on what we're doing. Then we evaluate the products that they have access to and compare that with other areas. And then we implement. And that implementation could be, okay, the status quo looks good. Let's continue on with the strategies that we're doing right now. They're meeting the objectives. Or the product that you're currently in, here's where it ranks relative to its peers. Do we want to make any adjustments or changes at this point in time? And so within Decidery, I'm able to create specific processes. One is cyclicals, and the other one is defensives, where I have a heavier weight right now on different criteria that in a cyclical environment, it's looking at strategies that are already in a growth. If we, from a macro view, think the markets are going to be growing, it's going to be focusing on cycles or sectors that are expected to grow over time, right? Then, that's the large cap growth strategies. But then the defensive is going to be focusing on basically three sectors: consumer staples, healthcare, utilities, which is where people, if the markets, if we think the economy is not doing very strong, what strategies are already positioned in those three sectors that will provide them stability in uncertain times? And so you have asset managers that move between the cyclical and defensive rather well. And you have growth strategies that they just stay in the cyclicals, and you have value strategies that just stay in the defensive sectors. And so there are strategies that have done well managing between the two.
to get a hold of Craig. Go to the website, tommattshow.com, bottom of the homepage. You can find him, click right through, take you right there. All right. Take you right there. If our show fits your business or group's mission, we want to be of service to you through our guests, like a Craig Stiles, education, topics, issues, all of it. All of it. I can't say enough about Craig Stiles and all of the help that he's done for us over the years. I hope he can help you. I know he can. Always remember, before you can share love with others, you must love yourself first. Thank you again to Craig Stiles, Sandy, Brock, Jamie White. We'll talk to you next weekend, everybody. Have a great week. Go out and ignite your life. Remember, the Tom Matt Show is a production of Boomers Rock Media. We want to bring your story to life. And lastly, thank you to the man, the legend, Mitch Anderson. We're out. I like doing a little emphasis for Mitch. He does a good job for us. We were able to give him a raise too. So
Awesome.
a little bit. I mean,
Every little bit helps, right?
well, we're just making a little bit more. We got to invest more. We got to make a little more, invest more. And that's exactly what we're doing. And so I go to the Bank of Sandy and I say, hey, I want to do this. And she's like, you need to rein this spending in, but you can go ahead and do this. And it works well. I mean, we're still at a good point. I don't know where she is right now. I don't think she's home yet. But how do you want to do your session? Are you going to send me a Zoom, or you want me to call you back, or?
I can actually send you off an MS Teams if you want to do that. I mean, either way, and that way I can go ahead and bring up the screen and we can take a look at the portfolio from there.
Okay. And I got to do a couple production things here, and I got to go use the bathroom. So yeah, give me,
Likewise.
I don't know where she is, but yeah, when it's there, I'll drop you a text.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Craig Stiles the best. Put my mic over here. Craig Stiles the bomb. Love him. We're got to get busy here. Got stuff to do. Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate you all so much. You have no idea how grateful I am to all of the listeners, the viewers of our content, and love you. So anything we can do to help you, we're here. Till next time. Peace out. Love y'all.